one of the positive side effects of the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 has been that we really experienced an unusually weak cold and flu season over this past winter. In fact, I know of someone who works in a pediatric clinic and said they were just astonished at how few flu cases with kids came in over the last several months, and they attribute it to all of the preventive measures that were in place with the COVID-19 pandemic. People wearing masks, schools doing remote learning, and if they were doing on-campus classes, if any child showed up who had any symptoms, they immediately sent them home. So anyway, they were attributing all of those efforts to really just nearly stamping out the cold and flu season. Not entirely, but largely. So that's one of the positive side effects. But now, Brian, experts are warning that we could be in store for an especially nasty cold and flu season coming up near the end of this year and into early 2022. And so we're investors, so we're always looking ahead and looking at the investing angle on things. Are there any stocks that you think might particularly benefit if we have a really nasty cold and flu season coming up?
Yeah, it's I think there's probably a couple different categories here. So one would be obviously drugstores. So I'm thinking like CVS Health, ticker there's CVS, Walgreens Boots Alliance, ticker there's WBA, and Rite Aid, ticker there's RAD, R-A-D. I like CVS, but maybe not necessarily the best pick simply for cold and flu because it also has Aetna insurance. So while it'll sell more cold and flu medication, it'll also have increased expenses on its Aetna insurance side as people go to the doctor because of their flus, at least. Like for all these categories, you kind of want to evaluate the company on the whole, not necessarily buy it just because of the cold and flu season. For test makers, Roche and Abbott both have flu tests, but they're pretty large companies. So I'm not sure how much you're going to benefit there. You could go, if you don't want to go specific on any one test, Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp of America, they're more general. They run a whole bunch of different kinds of tests, and they contract out with doctors to run the test. If you want to go sort of small, specific, Quidel might be a good option. Ticker there is QDEL. They have standalone machines that run in doctors' offices, and then they're razor and blades model. So you pay for each individual test, cartridge that you put into the machines to run the test. In terms of vaccines and treatments, most of the vaccine makers are pretty large companies. Sanofi, AstraZeneca are big flu vaccine companies. And then for treatments, Roche is probably the biggest there. It has both Tamiflu and Xolaflu, Xolafluza. And then maybe sort of outside the treatment area, but ancillary to the treatment area, GoodRx might be a good option. If people are looking for cheaper medications, they might turn to GoodRx, so that could help them.
I like that you started out mentioning some of the big pharmacy retailers, Brian, because not only did they benefit from increased sales of cold and flu products, but it also boosts their customer traffic in their stores, and customers could buy more products while they're there. I mean, that they really count on some sales boost during cold and flu season. But you also mentioned something really important. Don't just look at the prospects for a company for cold and flu season, because there's a bigger picture for all of the companies that you mentioned. They're not just dependent on cold and flu sales. So that's just one factor to include into your thinking.